What's up, guys? It's Caliber here,
And the beast.
Yeah.
and we are coming to talk about vaccinating your kids. Oh boy,
Yeah.
who wants to start on this one?
Well, I mean, I'm kind of the trigger puller on this one, so I guess I will. Um. Oh God, where do you start with this? I guess I'm gonna tackle myself for a little bit. That's what I'm gonna fucking do. So this is kind of the explanation as to why it's important to vaccinate your fucking crotch gremlins. And I took that right off of TikTok because it's the best explanation I've ever heard for offspring ever. And it makes me giggle. Um, so say you have a child and it comes out like me. I have a compromised immune system. Mine is not the worst compromised immune system in the world, but pretty much everything makes me sick. Every time I got a vaccination as a child, I got sick, like sicker than a normal kid. Um, there is no guarantee that all of my vaccinations stuck either. There's none. I talked to a doctor about it. We don't know what did take and what didn't take. But this is why it's important for other people to vaccinate their children. Is there are people like me who either are not eligible for vaccinations because of their immune system, or their immune system is compromised to the before some little fucking creep out there starts going on about HIV or AIDS. There are a lot of reasons why someone will be born with a compromised immune system. And I also don't have a chromosome disorder either. I have something called dermatographism, or skin writing. It is an autoimmune disease, and it compromised my immune system. Since I was already talking about it, and I'm not going to have fucking little speculators digging apart what I have to say. So, people like me rely on herd immunity. And what that means is that everyone else around us is immunized. So if I'm in a classroom setting and say one of my classmates, their parents go to another country and they come into contact with measles and they bring it back. If their child is vaccinated, chances are it's not gonna go far. I mean, unless you know that freaking person's like a doctor and they're like shoving their hands all over like newborns. Oh, something about that. I'll get there in a minute. Chances are it's not really gonna go too far, especially if the parent was up to date on their vaccinations before they went to another country and they followed up with their doctor afterwards. That's what you're supposed to do, especially when you enter somewhere that's not considered a first world country. Say their kid isn't vaccinated and they give measles to their child and they come to school not knowing that they're carrying measles, and my vaccination failed, or I was not eligible for vaccination because of my immune system disorder. They give it to me, and let's just say since I put this in a school setting, let's just say I have an infant sibling. I now bring home measles, and it kills my sibling. All because little Scotty over there, his fucking hippie-ass parents, didn't vaccinate him. My sibling's now dead. And that is a very real problem, especially with newborns. You take a newborn to the doctor's office, and you take them for like their couple week checkup. The MMR vaccination can only be given to children 12 weeks, or not 12 weeks, it's 12 months and over. So that's a year-old human being. That is a year of vulnerability. Assuming their parents are vaccinated, their vaccination carries over for the first 6 months. Now, say you bring your unvaccinated child to the doctor's office, has measles. This happened. By the way, this isn't me speculating. This happened. Parent brings their child to the doctor's office who has the measles. The measles is airborne for approximately 2 hours. An hour and a half later, a mother comes in with her newborn. Her infant child has now been exposed to the measles. And if it gets the measles, it could very well be facing a death sentence. Your decision does affect the people around you. You break the herd immunity, and you put other people at risk. Because one of an anti-vaxxer's arguments is, if your child's vaccinated, why does me not vaccinating my child affect yours? For that very reason. Let's say, for example, I don't have an immune problem, but I'm pregnant, or I have an infant, and you're unvaccinated little freaking gremlin, is carrying something, and it gets passed on to me, or to my infant, you've now killed it. With your blatant stupidity. Like, this actually makes me really angry, and is on the list of reasons why I never want to have children. It's because I don't want them to be exposed to the idiots of the world. Actually, let me rephrase that. I don't want to have my own children. Another argument I get faced a lot, because I'm very pro-vaccinations for my own safety and for the safety of other people's crotch gremlins that I care about. People say, oh, do you know what's in those shots? Do you know what's in your pipes? Do you know what's in conditioner, shampoo, all these things that come into contact with your body? Do you know what's in makeup? Well, of course I do. That's listed here, and here, and here, and of course I know what's in my pipes. They're made out of this metal, and this metal, and this is what's in my water, and this is what's in my water. How do you know? Oh, the government told me. It's written on all these things. You can look up what's in these shots. And you're more likely to be heavy metal poisoned by fish than a vaccination. The link between vaccinations and autism has been debunked, and even if it hadn't, I would rather have an autistic child than watch one slowly die of a preventable disease. I would much rather deal with someone who's a little mentally impaired for the rest of my life than watch my child slowly disintegrate before my eyes because I made a stupid decision. And this is a belief that I've seen around, and I kind of carry the same belief, but the vindictive bitch in me wants to carry this belief, but has compassion for offsprings, the maternal shit inside me doesn't feel this way. And that's the belief that if you don't believe in vaccines, then, or you don't believe in that, then when you or your child gets sick, you should be able to go to the doctor. Well, you shouldn't, and I don't. Part of the reason I don't believe that is I don't want to curse the child that had a stupid parent. But the parent who doesn't vaccinate their kids, I don't believe they should have access to health care anymore. I don't believe that when they get sick, someone should be along to help them. I don't believe that, if they're dying of dehydration, that they should be able to be hooked up to fluids. I don't believe that these things should be accessible for the parents who condemn their children like that. My mother put a lot of things in my own hands. how I wore my hair, and whether or not I got my ears pierced. Unlike a lot of parents, she never pierced mine or my sister's ears when we were infants. She waited for us to make that decision because that was a decision that we could make about our own bodies. When we got older, that we could comprehend what we were doing, she put it in our position of what vaccination we got, you know, if we wanted to get a flu shot or if we wanted to do this or stuff like that. But the same power of these people are influencing on their kids. Oh, it's my kid, it's my decision. You're right, but your decision influences everybody else. People get really angry when they can't send their kids to school because they don't have vaccinations. But as my aforementioned circumstance, that's why you can't go to school if you're missing vaccinations. That right there is why. You don't know who your classmates are. You don't know their medical background. You don't know if you have a high-functioning person that has an extra chromosome but wasn't eligible for vaccinations. You don't know any of that. And you're just putting everybody else's lives at risk. I'm rambling now. Someone else take over, please.
So, I want to go on the fence and say this because I actually personally witnessed this too as an anti-vaxxer. Said, well, if your kids are vaccinated and mine aren't, then what's the big issue? The other big issue is the fact that viruses, I don't know if she had mentioned this, viruses can mutate. They can become different strains.
The reason I didn't mention that is because a lot of viruses have a resistance to mutation, and it can be very rare that they mutate in an extreme manner that will combat a vaccination. That isn't to say it can't happen, because it happens constantly with common viruses that pass through a lot of people, such as the cold and the flu. You know, the reason why the flu shot makes you not feel so great is because it's a mix of a bunch of different strains of flu they think will be popular that year, but it's still all the flu.
Yeah.
And it does change, but I don't want to say the bigger ones because it makes them like on a spectrum, but some of them are more slow mutating, and the more people they pass through, the higher chance they have of mutation. But that's not to say that it can't happen.
Yeah.
It's not as likely, but that's not to say that it can't. Like, if it gets a good host, someone that it can incubate in well, someone who doesn't have an immune system that it can just take over, its chances of mutation, according to the science classes I've taken, are increased a little bit, but the percentage of the chance that it's actually going to mutate is low. But nobody wants it to mutate. No one wants a virus that can run rampant through people like that. But it shouldn't be a concern. People shouldn't have to worry about whether or not they can take their infant to a doctor's office without it being exposed to measles. The woman, and if I can find the article again, I will link it in the comments below, where I will send it to him and he'll put it in the description. From what I was reading, the woman is now isolating her kids because her other child hadn't completed her MMR vaccinations yet. So one anti-vax child put 2 lives at risk. You know, no parent wants to bury their child. It mentally destroys a parent to bury their offspring. Can you imagine the weight on somebody? Like, can you imagine how guilty they would feel if not only did they kill their child, they killed someone else's child? Like, you have the right to make decisions for your own, but your decisions do impact other people, no matter how you look at it. No matter, like, I have a shitty immune system. I have a beyond shitty immune system. So, when I was a kid, I got the chicken pox like so many other children did. And I remember being so fucking sick. And my mom, because of the time area that we were in, tried to give chicken pox to my sister from me. My sister's 3 years older than me. It would have been around the last year that she safely could have got chicken pox. I could not give her chicken pox. But it ran rampant through me for longer than it should have. It took forever to get rid of the fucking chicken pox. And my sister got vaccinated with chicken pox. When that year, she got vaccinated for chicken pox because she did not get it. She just, no matter how many times my mom tried to give her chicken pox from some other child, my sister did not get chicken pox, but she was not immune to it. They tested her for chicken pox, whatever. I don't know what they did with her, but they gave her the immunization. Because now she's an adult who never got chicken pox, and say my neighbor's toddler gets chicken pox, and my sister hadn't been vaccinated, and my sister got chicken pox from this kid and died. Something that, most children have as a kid that, affects them for like 2 weeks. Murder somebody. But my mom vaccinated my sister for chickenpox when she acknowledged that, she didn't catch it. So I'm going to protect my child later in life from this not harmful disease now, but later in life, it could very easily kill her. Now I'm probably going to get fucking shingles at some point, because, But either way.
Well, no, like she said, it's very rare for a virus to mutate, but when it happens, it can happen pretty fucking quick. And then once the virus mutates, then the vaccine that you were originally given no longer covers it.
Okay. I think... do you know where vaccines came from?
No, I don't.
Do you, Beast? Okay. I don't remember his full name, I just remember that he had Jenner in his name somewhere. Or was it a female? I don't remember. This person, it was smallpox. It was smallpox that was killing children. People, whatever. It's been a few years since I took this science class, so bear with me. So it was smallpox that was afflicting people. And he noticed that milkmaids that got cowpox, I think? Was it cowpox? I think it was cowpox. Milkmaids that got cowpox didn't get smallpox. So what he did, this is the first vaccination, they gave a bunch of people this disease, which was, I believe it was cowpox. Excuse me while I look up the first vaccination. But I believe it was, like, he gave them this less dangerous disease, and they didn't get smallpox. Smallpox. Vaccine history. Edward Jenner. It was invented in 1796. He followed his observation of milkmaids who had previously caught cowpox and did not catch smallpox by showing that inoculated cowpox protected against, I can't pronounce the word, it's inoculatd. Regardless, the people who got cowpox didn't get smallpox. Cowpox didn't kill people, smallpox killed people. Lesser of two evils, they took cowpox. That was the first vaccination. It was literally giving someone a disease to protect them from a deadlier disease. Which brings me back to the, even if vaccines did cause autism, which they don't, I would rather have an autistic child than a dead one. Are you going to weigh in, Beast?
No, I mean, you pretty much nailed it on there. There was at one point a enzyme that was used that had the potential to cause autism. But
Yeah.
we haven't used that since the 1960s or 1970s or whatever it was, and that's been done away with a long time ago. We've leaps and bounds in medical advancements. Um, that being the case, um, when I think about vaccinations, especially with the things I had to deal with when I was a kid, like chickenpox. My kids will never have to deal with that. Um, my kids will never have to deal um, with the outbreak of hepatitis A, which literally came from that long ago when we were all growing up during the scallion epidemic that happened, and literally like a bunch of restaurants went under because of the outbreak. Uh, no, nobody vaccinated before because it wasn't a big deal. It was something that was unheard of. An outbreak happened, and now we vaccinate for it. My kids will never have to worry about that because they are immune to it. Just like with other ones like polio and the other horribleness of the world, we literally put it into it. It's literally something that doesn't happen on a very regular basis, if at all. At all. Um, when you don't want to vaccinate your kids, you're putting your kids in the same dangers that were really prevalent back in those days as well. So how do you think that that's actually making it better for them generally? And I get that, as a parent, I understand you have every right to be able to do with what your kid, what you want to do with reasonable, whatever, how you want it. But there's also a point of, are you doing what's best for the kid, or are you doing something that's best for what you believe in? Because really what it boils down to is my kids are not autistic because they took the vaccine. My kids don't show any signs of that, or nor does any of the kids that are around me that taken the vaccines. So if this is such a big epidemic, then why don't I see more prevalent cases in which this has happened? It just seems like a far-fetched idea that you're really hurting the child because of a far-fetched notion that has no precedence in concrete evidence. There really isn't. Now, is there a case where there is a coincidental situation of which, yes, a kid has had vaccines given and then he turns out to be autistic? Yeah, that's a prevalent point, but autism at most points in time are not able to be identified until later stages within the developmental stages of their infancy to even toddler stage. That's when you gotta basically identify it and diagnose it. Before that time period, it's a shot in the dark. I mean, yeah, they can test for certain things with the brain stem with going with Down syndrome and such, but as of and the possibility of what they could be autistic, but again, they won't have an actual diagnosis of autism until they're in the developmental stage where they could show the signs of doing that.
And again, it's not like autism is a death sentence.
No, it is
It
not.
is very far from it. You can meet a very normal person, and they're like they could if they have been tested or not is debatable, but they could test positive it's a spectrum. They could test positively on the spectrum, and they could be completely normal. I'm sure there are people out there who have lived their entire lives with autism and not known.
Right. I mean, because autism really, it's a sensory disorder. So basically, on the worser cases that you would see, and we say worser, honestly, it's like I don't judge the day-to-day life is difficult, especially in raising a child that is like this. I'm not saying that means
Yeah.
it takes a lot of strength to be able to do that, and I commend anybody who has to go through that. And I definitely respect you guys.
Yeah.
What I'm getting at is to say that there's something wrong with the child is I think is absolutely wrong, because they're just getting too much information, not a lack of. In fact, you know, really, if they were able to find a way to kind of like overcome that, and then like they may be able to also get that same thing. Honestly, like what could we learn from that situation? Really, we can learn a lot from them, more so than they can learn from us, theoretically speaking.
Well, that's like with anything. Like when I was in kindergarten, I could read at a grade 3 level. I could read novels when I was in kindergarten. As I continued to progress, my reading got really like it's really easy for me to read, but I tested positive for dyslexia with issues I was having with writing.
Mm.
I was taught to read at a really young age. The words that I was taught to read, you know, my mom just kind of sat there and had patience, was just like, this is what this word is, like this,
Right.
constructing a sentence. And from talking to her, it did take a little longer with me than it did with Livy. But, it still worked. I never had an issue reading. Now, she didn't teach me how to write, like, she taught me how to write letters when I entered school, but that kind of got given to the school system.
Mm-hmm.
But even at that point, they gave me tools to teach me how to easierly write. How to write easier. Fuck my life. But if you listen to me talk and you listen to the words that I mix up, and if you watch me write and you watch the corrections I make, it's easy to tell that I have dyslexia. I can still read. I'm not saying, you know, all it takes is practice. There are people who have really aggressive dyslexia. There are people who have, like me, that, like, you know, I'm sure mine isn't as bad. That no one gave me a percentage of how bad my dyslexia is. But I'm sure there are people who have worse dyslexia than me, and I'm sure there are people who, you know, only are minorly inconvenienced by dyslexia.
Mm-hmm.
It's workable. When you learn how to interact with people, like when you learn, like, someone who has a sensory problem, they don't like bright lights, they don't like being touched. Don't touch them. Install a few dimmer switches, like, versus watching a child freaking get really sick and die. I'll take autism.
Yeah, babe, don't you have a sensory problem?
I have a sensory problem, yeah. I don't like things touching my hands.
Yeah, well, I think we need to point out that that's not just an autism thing. A lot of people who don't have autism, some will have some form of a sensory problem.
Well, that's true, but autism.
Well, here's a case in point, Beast. I never really liked things on my wrist, and look at me now.
That's a different type of sensory thing.
Yeah.
It's autism is more of a mental sensory. We're talking like visual, sound, that type of thing. Not so much more of like a touch sensory.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Well, even some people who have autism have touch sensory as well.
It's possible that could be part of their whole spectrum, but it has to include the other two more so than the.
I wanna actually bring up something from TikTok, and this actually happened on Tara's TikTok. So, tell them about that video that you did with that soundbite that you previously mentioned at the beginning of the video.
I wasn't gonna bring it up because it's kind of just a pointless story, but.
Well, there's a reason why I'm gonna bring it up, and I'm gonna show you why here in a second.
Okay, well, can you let me say it?
Yes.
You're gonna talk over me. You're the one wasting time at this point. I made a TikTok using a soundbite that says, "I was shocked to find out that measles is making a comeback, but I have a solution: vaccinate your fucking crotch gremlins, and it should go away in about 10 years." And this chick saw it, and she made 4 videos about it. And her bio says that she is a mother, a grandmother, and a nurse. And she has an infant son who has a chromosome disorder, who has a feeding tube, and who is not eligible for vaccinations. And she made videos about me about how it's the parents' decision and about how, just stuff like that. What was your point?
My point, well, I actually wanted to pull up is apparently she's a nurse. Now, why would a nurse be recommending parents to not vaccinate their kids? I'm sorry, if that's the mentality that she has, then we're just handing medical degrees to everybody now.
Yeah, that's the truth. But then again, I don't agree with the logic behind it. I mean, that's somebody's views on it, basically. But the point is, the boy that she's referring to isn't eligible to have vaccinations, which, honestly, in retrospect, going back to how, what'd you call it, herd vaccination?
Yeah.
Works, how that works is everybody being vaccinated around him protects him. So the fact that she's talking against that kind of is a little bit of a blur moment for me. But again, but you're going to have people always talking a bunch of smack for no reason at all.
But you know, it's funny. You look at the way it goes. I'm sorry to bring this up this way, but most of these anti-vaxxers, you want to know what else they are? They're anti-gunners. It's usually the left. It's the leftist side that's the ones that are against vaccinations. Yes, of course, you can look, and there will be some anti-vaxxers on the right side. And everybody has their every fucking politics has their fuck it, but it's normally the left side. They want to get rid of. All right, so they want to get rid of guns to protect the children, right? Well, if you want to protect the children, vaccinate your fucking kids.
Well, it's also, they also want to, the majority of anti-vaxxers, they want to believe in alternate medicines, like holistic, the crystal gazers and all that jazz we've mentioned before. Belief medicine. I mean, there's a lot of them religious-wise. But again, religious-wise, I mean, like, that doesn't go against anybody's religion to vaccinate your kids. I don't really remember.
There is some religions. I can't remember which one it was, but there is a religion out there where they believe in the alternate medicine and that going to doctors and so on and so forth goes against their religion. But we're not here to talk about that.
No, we are completely spiraling.
Yes, we are. I think that's pretty much it. Also, I want to say this is probably the last time I'll ever mention guns again, so you guys don't have to worry about that. We kind of got our topic off last week about that, so no more of that. But we'll stick to the random Wednesday videos. So yeah. Anyways, guys, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like down below. Don't forget to comment, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe to S13_the_Beast, and don't forget to subscribe to Tarot Storm. Don't forget to hit that notification bell to be alerted when I upload new videos. Anyways, guys, this is Storm Family signing out.